and gentlemen, I would like to express my hearty thanks. I am extremely happy to have the honor to visit this great country and speak before you in this beautiful hall, which Unity School of Christianity, which is a wonderful religion aiming at the unification of all sects of Christianity. Just like your school, we, SEICHO-No-IE, is the non-denominational truth movement in Japan and preaching the unification of all religions in the world, and not only all sects of Christianity, but all sects of Buddhism and Japanese Shintoism, etc. In these days of world crisis, there are among the devoted believers of Christianity who would like to follow the so-called examples of the Master Christ, make it their joy in life to accept and endure pains similar to those suffered by Jesus Christ on the cross. Based on this idea, when American Army atomic bomb Nagasaki city of Japan, the devoted believers of a Catholic church at Urakami Street of Nagasaki was praying together to accept similar pains to those suffered by the crucified Jesus Christ. Then the atomic bomb, which had been floating and suspending on the air, was miraculously induced closer and closer to the church, as if some spiritual power conducting it moving, and gave the fatal destruction to the church, and all of the most devoted believers was killed in a moment. Why was these most devoted believers have such misfortune? Again, why? In the nearest vicinity of the church, very close to it, there are Nagasaki University and University Hospital, which was completely destructed, and almost all professors was killed. But Dr. Kiyoshi Takase, one of the professors, was not killed. He was wholly outside the misfortune. Here is most delicate and finest secret of faith. We must know this secret of faith. It must be said that these are those who do not know the true wishes he wanted to save us a spiritual sufferer by suffering on our behalf. It was not his purpose to make us continue in suffering. For example, if we were to make a sightseeing of Canada on foot, it will require long hours of toiling or suffering in order to complete the sightseeing. However, thanks to the toiling of an inventor who, after many painful struggles, invented an automobile, it made it possible for us to make these sightseeings in a very comfortable state with no suffering. Similarly, under ordinary conditions, it would have meant prolonged sufferings for us before we may be able to reach a certain advanced spiritual level. But since God sent His Son, Jesus Christ, to suffer in our stead, it made it possible for us to enjoy spiritual gains without unnecessary sufferings. The misfortune of Urakami Catholic Church was not a penalty from God, but a self-made penalty resulting from sin consciousness. Unfortunately, the majority of mankind has the sin consciousness in their deep depths in their subconsciousness, for which they should compensate through many of the misfortunes or sufferings, including war and diseases. According to psychoanalysis, the impulse which was basic cause of all misfortunes and calamities, including war, is urged towards self-punishment, resulting from this conception of sin. Man against himself. Carl A. Menninger, Doctor of Medicine, Administrator of the Research Institute for Psychosomatic Medicine, and of the Menninger Foundation Hospital, wrote a book called Man Against Himself. In this book, it is said, the cause of war is self-punishment. Why is it that man pursues happiness and yet experiences unhappiness? Why is it that man seeks peace and yet he himself provokes war? There seems to be a self-contradictory spirit within man that causes him to do this against himself, and thus meet with calamity as though this calamity were a desirable goal. It is approximately 2,000 years since the advent of Christ. Yet, in that 2,000 years, the Church of Christ has failed to bring about any fundamental change in the nature of man. Why? 2,600 years ago, Gautama Buddha walked the earth, propagated Buddhism, yet his teaching has done little to raise mankind from the level of semi-beast. Again, why? In spite of the propagation of Buddhism and Christianity during this period, mankind has not improved morally. On the contrary, men are constructing ever more terrible weapons to kill one another with, and humanity is seized with the fear of atomic hydrogen war, which at any moment may result in the extermination of mankind from the earth. What has religion been doing all of this time? Is religion powerless for the progress of man's soul? Christianity and Buddhism have been of no avail. Such criticism sounds reasonable in a way. However, it has not been the fault of either Christianity and Buddhism. This is because true Christianity and true Buddhism has not been propagated, and the teachings of Christ and Buddha have been perverted on the way. Thus, the teachings which have been labeled Christianity are not those of the Master, whose name the Church has adopted. In like manner, Buddhism was perverted for 2,600 years, and the faith which is synonymous with peace brought only strife. The fundamental truth, the basic teachings, and the philosophy which sprang from those teachings have been changed secretly. In Christianity, the mistake lies in thinking of Jesus Christ as the only child of God, and that others are all children of sin. This is what is taught, but it is a fundamental mistake. A certain sect in Buddhism teaches that man is a common mortal with deep sin. The term deep sin, interpreted in its literal sense, means deep and heavy with sin and evil. It has been preached that man is a deep and heavy sinner. He therefore can never be saved. The Christian churches declare to humanity, you are sinners, you are children of sin. Christ is the only child of God, while most Buddhist priests preach, only a Buddha is a great one. You are all deep sinners. This is like telling a man who has been in prison, you are a criminal, or you are an ex-convict. To call a man a sinner is like calling a man an ex-convict. The whole human race is made an ex-convict. It is no wonder that humanity does not become good. For this reason, indeed, the shadow of universal world war looms before us, threatening the annihilation of all humanity. In this world crisis, though I am not a good lecturer in foreign language, I cannot help remaining silent. This is the reason of my world touring. In this world lecture touring, I am intending to declare the sonship of man's divinity and vanish the sin consciousness and self-punishment, which are the most spiritual grave causes of the world war. Therefore, I had already written an article titled Declaration of the Immaculateness of Humanity in the section of practical education of my book, The Truth of Life. For humanity to end war, disease, misfortune, and calamity, the consciousness of sin and the impulse of self-punishment, which give rise to self-destruction, must be removed. It is written in the Gospel according to St. John. Then said Jesus to those Jews which believed on him, if he continue in my word, then are ye disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth, and then truth shall make you free. Man can free himself by knowing the truth. Then, what is the truth? The truth is that man is a perfect and harmonious child of God, originally without sin. Because humanity does not know this truth, it gives rise to the conception of self-punishment, that man is a child of sin. He is a common mortal with deep sin. He therefore must atone for his sin. He must destroy himself. Humanity must commit mass suicide. When the truth is known, self-punishment will disappear. Jesus therefore said, the truth shall make you free. Now, the question, what is truth? When Pilate, Governor General of Rome, took Jesus to the judgment hall and asked him, what is truth? Jesus remained silent and did not answer him. Again, when Pilate asked, art thou a king? Jesus answered, thou sayest it. He answered, as you say, I am a king. However, he adds, my kingdom is not of this world. He was not referring to politics when he spoke of kings and kingdoms. He meant that he is a child of God and therefore possesses complete freedom and can control all things as can a king. To state it more clearly, it means that man is not a materialistic being. He is a spirit of God, and the child of God, a spiritual being. Thus, the physical body, which is mother, is not man himself. This is the truth. When Jesus declared that man is a child of God, Jewish people of that time made an uproar by saying, man is a child of sin. It is impertinent to call man a child of God. It is profanity toward God. We must stone him and kill him. On that occasion, Jesus answered them as follows, is it not written in your law, I said, ye are gods. If he unto whom the word of God came called them gods, it must be so, for the scripture cannot be broken. The Bible referred to here is the Bible of that time, the so-called Old Testament. Jesus pointed out the word of 6th section of Psalm 82nd in the book of Psalm, in which it is written, I have said ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. The Most High refers to the most sacred God. All of you are children of the Most High, therefore means that you are all children of God. Jesus pointed out this truth. Child of God does not mean inferior to God. It is therefore written, I have said ye are gods, children of God. It must be noticed here that ye are gods and children of the Most High, that is, God and child of God are intended to convey the truth that the children of God are gods and are equal to, not inferior to God. At any rate, he explains that it is written even in the Bible that man is a child of God, that it was wrong to criticize by saying that it is unpardonable to call oneself a child of God. The Jews, nevertheless, picked up stones to stone Jesus to death. He therefore asked, "Many good works have I showed you from my Father. For which of those works do ye stone me?" But Jesus answered him, saying, "For thy good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy, and because that thou, being a man, makest thyself God." From the viewpoint of the Jews, man is a child of sin, and yet Jesus affirmed that he is God, which was profanity towards God according to the Jews of that time. That is why they tried to stone him and kill him. Jesus then said, "Say ye of him whom the Father has sanctified and sent into the world, thou blasphemest, because I said, I am the Son of God. If I do not the works of my Father, believe me not. But if I do, though ye believe not me, believe the works, that ye may know and believe that Father is in me, and I in him." Jesus is thus saying that he is a child of God in whom God's life indwells, and therefore can perform the same works as that of his Father, that is, performance of miraculous deeds is evidence that he is a child of God. It must be noticed here that it is written in plural number in the book of Psalms of the Old Testament that ye are gods. Jesus states that all of you are children of the Most High. All of you are children of the Most High. That everyone is God and a child of God. Then why is a man a sinner? I would like to ask this question of the minister of most of the Christian churches. There is no such thing as sin. I therefore preach immaculateness of humanity and affirm vehemently that there is originally no sin. If man truly realizes this fact that they are not children of sin, but children of God, humanity will not project war as a means of self-punishment. It may be difficult to understand that the conception of sin restricts man in such a way without referring to actual examples. I will therefore state an actual case. There is in Tokyo a Dr. Tatsukichi Irizawa, who was formerly a court physician of Emperor Meiji. His wife is a devoted member of the SEICHO-No-IE, International White Pigeon Woman Association. One day, she came to my residence for advice. Someone had suggested to Mrs. Irizawa that her daughter, who was exceedingly moderate and modest, would become cheerful if she attended the Surugadai Women's Seminary in Tokyo, managed by the Christian Youth Association. She therefore had their daughter enter the Surugadai Women's Seminary. Her daughter soon became cheerful and progressive, to such an extent that she went to the home of a young man who was one of her relatives, and boldly proposed to him by saying, "Will you marry me?" She then returned home and told her mother unconcernedly. Mother, I went to his home and asked him to marry me. Her conservative mother was very surprised and exclaimed, really? She has already made a promise to marry and has exchanged engagement gifts. You mustn't break in and deprive others of their happiness. That is just sin. Now, Surugadai Women's Seminary is a school managed by Christian Youth Association, where a lecture on the Bible is given every week. During the lecture, one of the instructors had emphasized the penalty of sin by quoting the word from the Bible, which states the penalty of sin is death. The girl was deeply shocked. She thought, I am a sinner. I have committed a terrible sin. I try to deprive others of their happiness. Oh, I am a deep sinner. The penalty of sin is death. She leaned on her desk with her head between her hands and did not speak all day. I do not know whether it was a symptom of depression or neurosis. At any rate, she sat at her desk all day absorbed in melancholy and did not even take a bath. Her mother was very concerned and said, Dear, if you keep this up, you may really become ill. Why don't you go for a walk for diversion? But she would only reply, Mother, you are responsible for this. If you hadn't said such a thing, I wouldn't have become like this. And so she continued to be absorbed in melancholy. In this case, the daughter was not to blame. This is not a problem of one woman alone. All people who are tormented by the conception of sin are more or less restricted by the conception of sin, as was this young lady, and thus undergo self-punishment and obstruct their lives from unfolding by giving rise to disease, by making themselves suffer an unexpected misfortune, and furthermore by giving rise to war, which is a mass self-destruction. I am referring to the personal experience of this young lady merely as a case in point. Since this young lady was such a refined person and extremely introspective, she restricted her development and her chance of happiness by this idea of sin. She was an instrument of her own punishment. She would not take exercise, nor would she take bath. With her head between her hands, she suffered agony. Mrs. Irizawa came to me for advice. Dr. Taniguchi, she said, what should I do? I told her, visualize and worship the true nature of your daughter. The truth that man is a child of God without sin. If you place your palm together in prayer in front of your daughter, she may feel uneasy and may not like it. Therefore, practice Shinsokan meditation quietly in the next room where she cannot see you, and draw out in your mind the sinless, perfect true nature of your daughter through worship, by repeating earnestly in your mind that she is perfect and harmonious child of God. Originally, there is no sin. I then added, in order to do this, meditate intently for about 20 minutes daily, having in your mind these thoughts, you are a perfect and harmonious child of God without sin. It was my mistake to have told you that you committed a sin. You are a perfect and harmonious child of God. Then, a week later, Mrs. Irizawa came to my residence and thanked me by saying, "Thank you, Mr. Taniguchi. I am really grateful to you. My daughter became cheerful. She has been cured of her neurosis. I worshipped and meditated daily that my child is a son of God, originally without sin, according to your advice. Then my daughter told me yesterday, 'Mother, let me take a bath together.' While taking a bath together, my daughter, who had been absorbed in melancholy until yesterday, without even taking a bath, told me, 'Mother, I'll scrub your back for you,' and began scrubbing my back cheerfully. She was changed completely to my former cheerful daughter. The conception of sin restricts in this way everybody. However, as Jesus has said, the truth shall make you free. When the truth of man, a child of God, is realized, man will recover his perfect true nature and act. Verse 1. There is a man of Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler of Jews. The same came to Jesus by night and said unto him, Rabbi referred to teacher, we know that thou art a teacher come from God, for no man can do this miracle that thou doest, except God be with him. Jesus answered and said unto him, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. Nicodemus then said to Jesus, How can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter the second time into his mother's womb and be born again? On that occasion Jesus answered, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born of water and of the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. Jesus said that even if man enters again into the physical body of his mother and be born again, a person who has been born of the flesh is flesh. Therefore, it cannot be referred to as being born again. To be born again does not mean such a thing. One must be born again of the Spirit. One must know through spiritual realization that she is neither matter or flesh, but a spiritual being that is a child of God. Jesus further explains this truth by saying as follows, Marvel not that I said unto thee, you must be born again. The wind blows where it lists, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but canst not tell whence it comes, and whither it goes. So is everyone that is born of the Spirit. You can't see the wind with your physical eyes, can you? Even if there is a report that a storm center has been found in the south and gradually going north and will hit Japan, it will not be known where the storm center originally was formed, although it cannot be felt while it is blowing. Then that storm will go to the coast of the Tsushima Island and disappear somewhere, and cannot tell whether it goes. A thing that can be seen with the physical eyes, even air cannot be assigned a specific location for its creation and destruction. It is of no avail trying to realize the truth of being born of the Spirit by the application of the method of perceiving with the physical eyes, since Spirit cannot be seen with the physical eyes. To be born of the Spirit, we must accept that ultimate reality is spiritual, not material. That is, you must acquire enlightenment. When you attain spiritual enlightenment, you will realize that man is a child of God, that is originally without sin. In order to acquire this realization, it is necessary to practice Shinsokan meditation and to worship one another, as in the case of Dr. Irizawa's wife, who worshipped and drew out the perfect true nature of her daughter. The next example is about a young Kiropon addict who was healed through the realization of his own true nature. When man worships the true nature of each other, which is a child of God, however depraved a person may be, the perfect aspect will be made manifest, because depravity is not the original true nature of man. Here is an example. There is a young man named Toru Yamato residing in Osaka City. I heard his personal testimony at one of SEICHO-No-IE training school in Uji City. His brother-in-law was suffering from phyllophone poisoning. He experiences severe pain when he was out of the drug. When his parents did not give him money for phyllophone, he even stole money from his home in order to obtain the drug for injection. It was too much for his parents to have their son steal money from their home. They therefore hid their money. He would then open the drawer of their cabinet and bring out their dresses and valuables and put them in pawn or sell them. He thus obtains money for the drug. His sister, wife of Mr. Toru Yamato, suffered from pleurisy through excess of their grievance over her younger brother. The thought of grief transforms into liquid. Liquid accumulated in her pleural, no matter how many times the doctor withdrew the fluid, which he did daily. Thus, her pleurisy was not cured. At this time, Mr. Toru Yamato received instruction from Mrs. Kimiko Inaba, a local lecturer of our SEICHO-No-IE, who was taking care of the Osaka SEICHO-No-IE training school. Mrs. Inaba explained to him in detail that man is a child and that there is no such thing as a child of sin. Accordingly, there is no such a person as a depraved youth who steals money and dresses from his parents' cabinet in order to purchase Philophon. The youth in this case appears as such because he thinks that he has sinned and is a depraved youth. It manifests a negative state in the phenomenal world, which is a reflection of his mind. She advised him to practice Shinsokan meditation daily and to bring his brother-in-law within his mental vision and repeat his name, then concentrate his thought on the poor man with his whole heart, and thus meditate that he is the perfect and harmonious child of God. He is not such a person that suffers from Philophon poisoning. He is a perfect and harmonious child of God. When Mr. Toru Yamato practiced Shinsokan meditation, as he was instructed and meditated on the perfect true nature of his brother-in-law, the sick man was cured of Philophon poisoning within a week or two. If a Philophon addict is treated by a medical doctor, the patient will undergo the isolation method of treatment, in which he will be locked up in a room and deprived of his drug. However much the patient writhes in agony when he is out of the drug, no sympathy is displayed and no compromise is made in the method of treatment. Then, when the patient passes the height of pain, he will be made to form a habit of living without application of the drug. However, the borderline is said to be unbearable, and it takes over a month for the patient to be able to refrain from injection when he is out of the drug. A week or two of the isolation method of treatment is not sufficient to effect a cure. Furthermore, it is common that even if a patient experiences a cure by the isolation method of treatment, when he is discharged from the hospital, he will recall the pleasant sensation induced by the drug, and he will begin the habit again. However, when the patient experiences a cure as he is a perfect and harmonious child of God, he realizes that he has no need for Philophon. Consequently, even when the patient is out of the drug, he will not. Thus, Mr. Toru Yamato testified that Philophon poisoning of his brother-in-law was cured when the truth of the immaculateness of humanity was actually realized through the practice of Shinsokan prayerful meditation. It is written in the Old Testament that the perfect man is an ideal existence as follows. God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. This was written by Moses through divine inspiration. Man is created in the image of God. Image of God does not refer to the form which is seen with the physical eyes. The thing of the three-dimensional world of length, breadth, and thickness can be seen with our physical eyes. The things of the world that transcend the three-dimensional world cannot be seen with our physical eyes. However, it is a mistake to think that a thing that cannot be seen with the physical eyes is without form. It possesses a form as an ideal. A form as an ideal means that when matter that can be seen with the physical eyes is eliminated, only a pure form without matter will remain. For example, let us suppose that here is a building. Now, when the building that is made of matter is destroyed, a non-materialistic form called design will remain. This is a so-called ideal. There is such a pure true nature of man. This pure man is a man created in the image of God. Man is created by God in perfect and harmonious state of God, both in spirit and in form. Sin is a concealment of perfectness of the true nature of man. The first book of Moses, called Genesis, again states as follows: God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be grateful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it. God spoke thus, and created all things, and authorized man to control all things as the Lord of creation. When a person suffers from such complaints as silicon poisoning, alcoholic poisoning, and nicotine poisoning, although it may not be fatal, when a person falls into such a state that he cannot live without cigarettes or other narcotics, the nature of independence and self-respect has been lost. She has become enslaved to these things, though God has bestowed on man the power to control all things by declaring, Be grateful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, subdue it. Man has himself abandoned his authority and is concealing the power which has been bestowed on him. Then what is a fundamental sin? There are sins against society which are called crimes. These range from murder to such minor infringement of law as trespass. The fundamental sin, however, is a concealment of the divine nature of man, that is, the true nature of God, which is referred to as the true nature of Buddha in Buddhism. This concealment is so-called sin. The etymology of concealment and sin are identical in the Japanese language. Your true nature is that the perfect child of God. You must not conceal your perfect and true nature. You must manifest it. When the state of your perfect true nature as a child of God becomes concealed, negative state will appear in all directions, such as failure, diseases, misfortune, and criminal acts. Concealment, therefore, must be of the religions of today. Conceal the truth that man is a child of God and therefore perfect. The ministers of Christianity are calling out humanity, thou sinners. They are concealing the divine nature of man intentionally. Consequently, they themselves are committing a great sin. They who are concealing the divine nature of humanity are indeed greatest sinners. This is why the whole human race has been misled by these great sinners, and the conception of sin has been propagated. Consequently, though the teaching of Christianity has been propagated for approximately 2,000 years since the advent of Christ, the true teaching of Christ has been concealed and confined. For this very reason, men have fought with each other ceaselessly, and they are now in a state of fear that another world war, break out at any moment. In order to be released from such a critical state, we must worship and draw out the perfect true nature of man. We must not conceal this perfect man. It is written in chapter 1, verse 31 of the first book of Moses called Genesis. God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. God, he himself had examined it with his omniscient and omnipotent wisdom, so that it was all good. God has testified the goodness of all existence. Nevertheless, to think that such a thing as evil, sin, misfortune, calamity, and war really exist in this world would be anti-testimony in stating it is not good against God's explanation that it is good. It must be said that is indeed blasphemy toward God. It is therefore necessary for the person who truly believes in God to recognize meekly that all the things of this world, including man, are perfect creation of God, as God has testified. That is, however, incomplete the phenomenal appearance may be, he must realize meekly the perfect true nature of the person, and moreover worship all people. You must worship not only the true nature of others, but also the true nature of yourself. When I went to training course at a certain locality, a young lady revealed her personal experience. This young lady, who is an active member of SEICHO-No-IE Youth Association, was told by her younger sister, "Thou seems to be worshipping all the people as children of God, but you are not worshipping yourself as a child of God." When she was told thus, she said that she became aware of it. I thought that it was a good advice. Although one is taught to worship others as children of God, one must respect his own true nature to a great extent. All crimes are caused by inferiority complex, by not respecting oneself, and by treating oneself as a sinner. All misfortune and misconduct are due to the concealment and self-destruction of the self. An inferiority complex causes one to think that I am a worthless fellow. I am good for nothing. The following story is written in my book titled 365 Chapters to Happiness. A patient went to a truth practitioner and sought his advice. The practitioner said to him, "Your disease is not healed because you have not forgiven the sin of others." The patient answered, "No, though I used to hate and reproach others before, I have now forgiven everybody Since I became a student of truth, I worship all people. Yet my disease is not cured. The practitioner then said to them, your disease is not cured because you have not forgiven yourself. Although one forgives all others, if he does not forgive himself, he will make himself fall into misfortune or give rise to disease through self-punishment. You must first of all recognize yourself as a child of God, and whatever mistake you may have committed in the past, you must realize quickly that there is, in the ultimate truth, no such thing. You must not think that you have such and such a bad habit, and that you are unable to overcome that bad habit. The reason one will not be able to get rid of this bad habit as a shadow of his mind is because he is grasping in his mind that he has a bad habit. If we think that sin exists, we will be attracted to the things that we think of as existent. The idea or conception possesses the power to move a person into action. This could be made clear by a simple psychological experiment hung down a waist attached to the lower end of piece of string by holding the upper end of the string like this, with a finger tip, with the elbow set on the table for absolute steadiness. Then concentrate your mind by thinking. The string will move vertically. The string will move vertically. The string will move vertically. The string will begin to move vertically. When we think repeatedly that it will move horizontally, the string will begin to move horizontally. It is a simple experiment. Nonetheless, it is evident that our bodies, even the minute cells of our fingertip, were vibrating delicately when our brain commands. If one thinks that he is a sinner, the conception of sin will cause him to commit a crime. Now that you have listened to me, I hope my words have brought you a little nearer to the ultimate truth. Do this now right away, and you will realize that you are a child of God, that you have been born anew, that you are an infinitely holy, supreme child of God of perfect purity. If you truly realize that your life is a genuine, perfect, and harmonious depths of your subconscious mind, that you are a child of God, therefore you cannot but become good, then you cannot perform any but good deeds. First of all, worship yourself as a child of God, and with this as a basis. When you worship all humanity completely, knowing that all human beings are perfect and harmonious children of God, without sin, as in the case of Mr. Toru Yamato, who worshipped his brother-in-law and cured his Philopon poisoning by drawing out his perfect true nature. The conception of sin of humanity will be removed. When the conception of sin will be removed, self-punishment will be removed. When self-punishment disappears, or sinful conduct and commitment of crime, domestic discord, diseases, poverty, and all unhappiness will disappear. I hope the audience will realize and comprehend this truth and experience happiness, and at the same time extend the truth to the whole human race. This is a way to world peace and a way to the achievement of a heavenly paradise of supreme bliss in this world. World peace and the happiness of humanity depend upon your realization. I feel much thanks to your kind listening to my broken English. Thank you. Thank you.
We thank you, Dr. Taniguchi and Madam Taniguchi, for being our guests this day, this Palm Sunday.